Ambition! Woohoo!
Hi, everybody. You can tell Tiffany's quite high energy this afternoon. It's Alex and crazy.
Tiffany! Woohoo! I'm just really excited. I'm really excited. By the way, guys, did you know we're now on episode 31?
31. I can't believe it. I really
Yeah.
can't.
I
Well
know.
done us.
Well done to us. This is the power of consistency and doing it anyway, right? In our dressing gowns, our hair up, no makeup. You know it. We've done it. Right. Without further ado, we have an amazing guest for you guys today. It's Tanya Edgar. Now, Tanya is an incredible woman, and I just want to tell you a little bit more about her. So in her career, she has closed over 4.5 million in revenue. She's been named MVP of the year and top performing saleswoman for 2 consecutive years. She's trained sales teams at private equity and VC-backed companies. She's an ex-professional TV and West End theatre actress as well, bringing a unique perspective on high performance and values-driven leadership. She has over 500 hours of coaching experience with C-suite and exco at multinational organizations. She's also a mentor and trainer for new coaches, helping them to build successful businesses and to make an impact. And she is an MCC and ICF accredited UK top 2% coach. And more than that, she's also a mom of 2. Tanya.
The important job, the main job, the parent.
What is the secret sauce here to being a high performing, incredible woman?
Oh my God, that's a massive
dive in with a deep question there, Tiffany.
Get right into it.
Tell us the secret. Go on, Tanya.
Oh my goodness.
No.
Oh well, it's funny because I hear you read that back and I'm like, what? We have those moments, don't we? I think it's quite common as women, as parents, to be like, oh no, I didn't do that, or like to play it down, right? So I'm hearing you talk and I'm like, oh God, it feels uncomfortable, doesn't it? Which is so ridiculous. But yeah, so I have done all those things. I don't really know what the secret sauce is, but I'm hoping, as we talk, we'll discover some things about me and ourselves and find some more information there.
I think it's so true, though, Tanya, that people, particularly women, are uncomfortable with that kind of intro. And I think pretty much everyone that we've done it with has been like a little bit bashful afterwards. But you did all of those things.
Yeah.
So what do you want to focus on? I think you've obviously had a bit of a squiggly career. We talked about the fantastic podcast Squiggly Careers and how they kind of focus on that. But it sounds like you've had a very squiggly career of reinvention.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing, actually. We were talking before this call about kind of reinvention, great word, and how you kind of have to switch lanes. Sometimes you want to switch lanes, sometimes life happens or things happen to you and you have to switch lanes. And I've had definitely a squiggly career. By the time I got to sales, I'd already had a career in theatre, which was not really the standard when you come into sales. Most people haven't got that background, so I was really worried that I wasn't going to be able to get the job, or that I wasn't going to be able to prove my worth, because I felt quite behind my peers, and we can go into the theatre later, but that's how I started out. So I went to drama school, graduated from drama school at 21, got an agent, went into the West End, which was a very different experience to most of my other friends who were doing equally amazing things but in very different fields, and going into the working world, into corporations. And I had no understanding of that. I didn't even write a dissertation. I was the very, very last year at my drama school where, to get my degree, I have a BA Hons degree, and to get my degree, the only writing I had to do over 3 years was a 200-word paper.
Nice.
That was
well
it.
done.
Yeah. Everything else was
as a law graduate, that hurts me.
I'm so sorry. Exactly this. So it was a really different world, because I wasn't used to that, even just kind of like corporate speak. I wasn't used to it. I wasn't used to being eloquent over email, or all of those kind of skills that my peers it came to them so naturally because they'd been writing dissertations and they'd been studying and thinking critically, and I'd been doing something very different. I'd been very vocationally focused, and lots of dancing, 37 hours a week of dancing, singing, acting, go. So when I came into the sales environment, I did feel a bit like I was behind everyone else. And it's just a funny theme, isn't it, that whenever you, like I said at the beginning, hearing the intro, and lots of your guests hear their intro and feel a bit strange about it. Same thing happened when I came into a new environment, and I think a lot of people will feel familiar with that. No matter how skilled you are, you're always comparing to what other people are doing, and that's definitely a barrier that I think I've experienced in transformations and transitions as I've gone through my career. But
yeah. I think
And
I'd love to know.
go ahead, Tiffany. We're
no,
doing it again.
I'll let you go.
You're
It's fine.
first. Go.
Yeah, I think we had a conversation about, like you said, the squiggly career, and I'd love to know what motivated you to make the transition. Was it life? Was it circumstance? Like, so how did you go from West End to sales? Was that career? Was that life? Was just change? What instigated that?
So that particular transition was life, that it kind of happened to me. So and I'm sure other people can feel like this is familiar, because I think often in our lives things happen we don't expect it to, and we have to readjust. We have to make a difficult decision. And for me, it was a health happening. My health deteriorated whilst I was in the theatre, and there was a moment where I had just signed like 18 months worth of contracts for shows, which was really unusual. I was so excited because I was going to have back-to-back work, and I was going to be traveling and all sorts of things. And I got really poorly, and mid-show I was in a show called Salad Days in the West End, and mid-show I came off stage at the interval, sat down on the sofa backstage and said, I can't explain this to you. I said this to the manager. I can't explain this to you. I can't get off this sofa. I actually can't get off the sofa.
Wow.
And mid-show they had to pull me. I went home. We thought I would recover. I didn't recover. Turned into a much longer challenge that I had to deal with, and thankfully everything's fine now. But it forced me, because pretty much overnight I'd gone from all these contracts signed up to nothing. I had to turn it all down and move back in with my parents, which was not my plan. That wasn't the plan.
Yes.
So there was a period of recovery, and I think when these things happen, I think it's important that you go through that kind of grief curve, and that definitely happened for me, feeling like, why me? Why now? Like, why has this happened? And that's human nature, and I think happens to everyone when you get these kind of big shifts, especially when it's related to something that you feel was your purpose or was your dream. And for me, theatre was my dream. I didn't see myself going and doing anything else. I trained really hard for it, and as far as I was concerned, that was my career. And I didn't see any of this coming. So there was a kind of a grief curve that I definitely had to go through. So when you talk about, what was the motivation to shift, I think to start with, I had to deal with the grief of letting go of something that I thought was going to be my life or my purpose and my career. And sitting with that, and that was hard, and that was very much peeling back the layers and just getting back to basics and kind of self-care 101, really, just actually taking it down to right now I've just got to look after me, and I've just got to eat well. I've just got to kind of get my health back, but also use this time to listen and to tune in, because I might never be able to do theatre again. And I never went back to theatre. I could do if I wanted to, but I didn't. So I had to make my peace with it, and that was really hard. To do.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think partially because something like theatre and being an actor is surely such a big part of your identity as well, and a very vocational, dream focused route, isn't it? It's not like a lot of jobs you would go into and you've got various different career paths, but with that, you're very set on a particular kind of route and purpose, and it is all about the dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that change to your identity?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's gradual, and I think it is, and there is an acceptance. And there's a sort of an important piece there around separating your identity from what you do, and I'm sure you kind of relate to that.
Wow,
really common for us, right? And especially as mothers, I think it can be often that your identity is your work, is your job. It's what you do. And it's the first thing, you know, when people say you go to a drinks party, oh, hi, I'm Tanya. What do you do?
Yeah.
Right. So our identity is linked to our job often. And there's a big piece of work there when you go through a transition, like either a job change or becoming a parent, where your identity fundamentally changes, and you there's, I think, a moment of fighting it. I know I did when I became a parent. I fought it. like I can't just be the woman pushing the pram.
Yeah.
You know, and walking along the street, people would look at the pram and the baby and they wouldn't look at me. And it was like what is my place in this world anymore, because people aren't interested in me. I used to have a big job and walk into a room and chat with people, and people would say hi, and now they don't, you know. But coming back to that kind of, how do you deal with that? Yeah, I think it's gradual, and looking back and reflecting on it. At the time, I didn't have the tools that I think I have now, and having gone through coach training and kind of supported other people, I think I would approach it really differently now. But back then, I think it was just a bit of that soul searching of, well, if I'm not Tanya the actress, Tanya the West End dancer, then what am I, and what parts of that are mine outside of being the job role? So Tanya the West End dancer, well, what part of that is mine? Well, the skill set of being a dancer is still mine. That's something I still own. Whether I'm in the West End or whether I'm dancing in my kitchen, that's still my skill set. And starting from there and kind of looking at what parts of that big identity you've built still belong to you, that you still have ownership regardless of where you're using them. And I think that's the process, probably in a very clunky way, I went through, and now I think would go through in a much more streamlined way, and really diving into that identity of who am I on that surface, outside of what I do, outside of whether people like me or don't like me. What is it? What's my superpower and my spark? What are those things that I bring every day, regardless of what I'm doing? And there was a lot of journaling. There was a lot, you know, there was a lot of journaling and frustration, and just figuring out what that meant for me. But eventually I did get to a place where I think I understood what my unique character was, what some of the gifts were. And there's that age-old exercise where you go and ask other people, and you know, it's a good exercise for a reason, because when you go and ask other people, what are my key strengths, what am I great at, and what do you admire me for? We never ask our loved ones that. We never ask that, but we really should. Everyone should. What do you admire about me that you see in me? That what skill sets do I have that you love, or what parts of my character really shine through? Because we don't get those answers anywhere else, and it's hard to see that for ourselves.
Completely agree, because often some of the things that you have as a skill, an innate skill, you don't even realize is a skill, because it comes so easily and so naturally to you. Like, for example, I like talking to people. I'm quite good at chatting to people. But I might not. It's only because people have said, oh, you can always get people talking, that I kind of realized that.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I'm just quite chatty, but it does come naturally. And I wouldn't necessarily even realize that was a strength, other than other people have said that to me. You're good at talking to people, you're good at getting them to open up. And really, those kind of fundamental things, I think, really, they seem so obvious to us. We think everyone can do them.
Yes. I really like what you said about coming naturally as well, because there is there is an element of skills and this is sort of some of the work that I do, when you break it down, there's different types of skills. So there's innate skills that are natural, and those are the ones you get the feedback for, and there are also learnt skills. So as an example, after the more recent transition I've been through was I came out of the corporate world and started my own business. And in the corporate world, people would say I received feedback from managers or peers. You know, when you have to fill in the form and you ask for some feedback, can you give me some feedback, please, for my my review? You know, all of that. And time again, people would say, "Oh, you're really organised. You're really, really organised." So I thought that was an innate skill of mine. And then I left the corporate world, worked for myself, and realised that it's a learned behaviour. It's a learned skill that takes a lot of energy. I can use my energy and do it and be really good at it, but it actually doesn't come naturally. It isn't actually a natural skill. I've learned to be that way. And that's another thing when we're going through transitions that I think is really important, because we need to be able to use our energy wisely. And if you're pushing with lots of learnt skills that are taking up, you know, chunks of your battery, especially if you're dealing with other things, let's say the transition was because of health, or you've just become a mum, or anything that might be drawing your energy anyway, it is taking that moment to come back to what's that natural skill that's just effortless and easy. What's that natural strength? So yeah, that was a surprise for me coming out of corporate and realizing, actually, it's not a natural strength of mine. I can tap into it and use it when I need it, and I do.
I like that.
But
That's interesting. Yeah, and I think that certainly be a good time then to delve into entrepreneurship, especially with what you said about working your own business. I mean, what would you say then that a lot of people get wrong about running your own business, especially as a mom, especially as having other commitments and other priorities?
I think there's a couple of things.
Okay.
I think the first thing, I guess it's not really get wrong, but something that I see time and time again is that is the resistance to take the leap and just give it a go. And I think that just comes down to the world that we live in, and that's really speaking from personal experience, because I wanted to set up my own thing about a year earlier than I actually did. And it was that resistance of, what if it fails? What if it fails? What if I'm not any good at it? And of course there are other elements in there, right? When you're setting up your own business, that, you know, there's a financial aspect as well. But for me, it was I felt I had to have all of my ducks in a row before I could even start number one. And that's something I see again and again. I do a lot of mentoring with new coaches, and I see that a lot, that the idea that you must have the beautiful shiny website, and you must have, if you're selling products, you must have all of the products wrapped up and packaged ready in your living room. And if you're selling services, you must have a completely thorough product suite that you've created, and you need to have all these, and you need leaflets, and you need business cards, and you need and I can't do anything till I've done all those things. Yeah.
To start a podcast, you need a recording studio. You need to edit.
I'm
feeling this deeply, Tanya. I'm feeling called out.
Don't just start on Google Drive. You need an editor, marketing person. You need to chop and we know.
We talked a lot before we actually pulled the trigger on recording. We'd be like talking about content, talking about this, talking marketing, about that. But actually, should we have another meeting? Should we have another meeting to talk about content? And that went on a while, didn't it, Tiffany? I mean, only in our case, only a few months. We weren't there like a year later still talking about it. But one day we were just like, do we just do it? Do we just record?
Yeah. And that, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Tanya, please.
And that, as you were speaking there, that was kind of making me think about the motivation aspect. And I think that's really key when you're starting on something new. If you're whether that's setting up a business or a side hustle or a podcast or something that you feel really passionately about, and you want to get it right. There's this element, especially if you're coming out of corporate, or if you're still in corporate and you've been there for a while, that we build motivation extrinsically. So we build motivation from things around us. So we feel good once we've got the feedback. So, and then when we get the feedback and yeah, you're doing a good job, like keep working, that's what then you feel really motivated to do that job. Or the motivation towards, if I do really well on this, I might get a pay rise, or I might get a new job, or I might be promoted. That's all outside of us. So we're very used to that. That's just the world that we live in, and that's really normal. And then you come in, sort of do your own thing. Let's say for me, that was taking the leap and starting my own business, and I didn't have that. I didn't have any of that. So to feel safe, I spent a year before I took the leap to try and feel safe, building a concept, building stuff, in the hope that I could sort of find some motivation, because then once it was done, I could look at it and go, that's good, that's actually good. So now I'm ready to put it out into the world. But motivation doesn't work like that. And I don't know if you guys had that at the moment at which you went, right, let's just do it. But there is a moment where you go, I'm never actually going to be ready. And that's because motivation is built internally, intrinsically. And the only way that you can actually get going is to get going. You just have.
I really like that. And it reminds me of something I heard recently about motivation. About there's a famous quote that you can't take a horse to water, you can't make it drink or something, right? You can't. And then someone said, yes, you can. If you dehydrated it and you put salt in his mouth and you put it very close to water, it will drink. What's this idea that I know we weren't, no animals were hurt on this recording, but it's just this idea that this idea of motivation being this thing that you can find it if you're in the right situation, or you're motivated enough to start a business, or there's something that you feel like, I just have to do this. So how did you take the leap then? How did you go from, because I'm sure it like you said, it took a year, but what was it? Was it a particular mindset? Was it something you saw, or at what point did you just say, I need to do this, and I'm just going to do it?
I think looking back, what's really fascinating to me, because now I kind of dissect it with my coach hat on as well. So it's like I'm like dissecting what happened to myself. There was a couple of things. I think one of them was there was a bit of a push. Things, I wasn't happy in my job, and I really wish that it hadn't have been that, because really it would have been, I think I was so close and I just needed that push. But it was almost like I wasn't quite happy where I was at the time, and that got me thinking, and it got me to a point where the pain that I was feeling in the role was so strong that it outweighed the fear of taking the leap.
Okay.
If I was to kind of like rewind and think, well, how could I have like avoided that? I think it would have been going out and finding more evidence that it works. And we live in a comparison culture, so it's so easy to just open up Instagram, start scrolling, and just talk yourself out of everything immediately, because everyone's doing really, really well and has these massive successful businesses, and they make $1 squillion million a year, and like it's so easy in 30 seconds to be like, I can never do that. So I think, it's a kind of a shame that it was a push for me. It was almost like, it's now or never. I've got to do this, and I really am not happy, so I'm just going to try. But looking back now, kind of the advice I give when I'm talking to newer coaches and people kind of looking to build side hustles or side businesses, is that go and find the evidence that it works. So don't look at the people at the very top of the tree. Look at those who started a couple of months ago and it's promising. Wow. You can see that they're a couple of steps ahead of you, not a whole ladder. They're just a couple of steps. They're doing some good stuff. It looks like it's working. They look happy, and almost like fill your mind with this positive evidence, because that's the way that our brains work. We filter through the evidence that we have. So if you can go and gather loads of evidence to convince yourself, well, this works because other people are doing it. Here's another reason why it works, because I've got the skill set and I've tried a little bit. I don't need to keep going down that route. I've done enough. In principle, that works. Here's another piece of evidence. People tell me I'm good at this thing, and stacking until really it's almost like being a lawyer in the court of law and like arguing the point and going, well, look, here's all the evidence. So it's quite clear. that you have to do it, that you have to take that leap. So I think that I wish that it had been that way for me, and that's what I try and encourage other people to do, to kind of just build that up, because it's so easy to look at the dream lives and
the ones that are so far ahead that you can't even.
I guess it's the same as like if you started as an intern in a company, looking at the CEO and going,
I want your job, mate.
I can never do it, so I might as well quit.
I've seen quite a lot of stuff online recently, like don't compare your day one to somebody's, I don't know, 20-year career. They had to start somewhere. It's all about the steps and the building blocks, and the best time to start was yesterday. The next best time to start is today. You could put it off till tomorrow, but you'll never be any readier.
Yes.
And the other thing, Tanya, so what was the second thing?
The first thing?
Yeah, the first thing was people like not getting on with it and not starting.
Remember what the
down. Don't worry.
No pressure.
I'm so enthusiastic to find out. But the other thing we talked about, helping people to develop side businesses that then allow them to build. They don't necessarily want to fully make the leap, but they want that side business to help them build a life that they love. And I really like that when we talked about that in kind of our pre-call, and I just wanted to draw that out a bit, because I think there are a lot of people who would like to work less so that they can be there for school pickup. But financially, that's just not realistic. So they need something else there. So talk to me a little bit about how you kind of coach them to do that.
Yeah, I love that question. And you're absolutely right. I think there's a bit of a, I don't know, feeling in the air. There's kind of like a change in the wind where I'm noticing people, there's more and more people who are open to doing something alongside what they're already doing in order to buy themselves flexibility, mostly. And it is often parents, it's not always parents. Lots of my clients who are new coaches, for instance, they are not parents, but they are very focused around that, having that flexibility and having more ownership of their day, their life, but also their trajectory. So it's kind of on your terms, your career's on your terms. And so often it's people who are looking to build kind of something more service-based. So that's either coaching or building out a mentoring practice, utilizing the skills. So we often see that with people who've perhaps been in the working world for 15, 20 years and have got a huge amount of knowledge and skill set, and then staying within their role, but utilizing their personal brand to then mentor the next wave of people coming in. And that really kind of like gives me good feelings, because I love to see that kind of passing down, but also that kind of reaching down to someone who's on just the rung below you. Like we were saying, everyone's climbing the ladder at different stages, but just reaching down and being able to help other people to keep moving up wherever they are in the world. So kind of two different buckets, but the thing that aligns them both is exactly what you've said, kind of that wanting to work around other commitments, whether that is children or whether that's caring for family, or whether that's just because actually you really like traveling and you want to be able to do more of that and kind of live more life rather than just sitting at a desk. So and it's very tailored the way that I work, but I think the kind of the key thing that we work through is coming back to those skills, those strengths. What is that really for you, and what's that superpower? Because everybody has one, but most people don't know it. And finding your lens, because ultimately everything is really just about connecting with the person that you want to work with, the person that you want to sell your services to. So it's kind of tweaking that, fine-tuning that. We can find that for everybody. What is that? What's your secret sauce? What's that flavor that's going to attract people to you specifically? And I find this fascinating work, because particularly in the coaching world, there's loads of coaches, which is in my opinion, a brilliant thing because it shows the market's buoyant, but it's also means that more people get access to a coach, and like the world, in my opinion, would be amazing if everyone had the opportunity to be coached, because then we can all achieve what we want to achieve. So because of that, though, if you're coming into the coaching and mentoring world and you're offering that kind of one-to-one service, whether it's non-directive from a coaching perspective or whether it's more of a mentoring advisory role, maybe even consultancy, you need to find that secret sauce. So that is one of the things that we work on, and it does come down to that diving deep into what are your unique skills regardless of what you're doing, and how can you help others with those. So that's kind of where we start. Yeah,
I like that a lot. And I think this is kind of what Yasmin also spoke about. Yasmin Darosha, she was talking about, as mothers, you know, if you're trying to figure out what's next, the idea of like finding clarity and really thinking about what you want, and not just like what the other people want for you, but what do you want? And the importance of not just even from a career perspective, just like what do you actually want? And I think it sounds like what you're doing then is helping people find that. And I think this is something a lot of mothers don't have the time to do, right? Because you're the last person on the list when everyone, you know, everyone else gets fed. Mummies, and there's a book by Simon Sinek, I think it's called Leaders Eat Last. I'm like, mummies eat last, or they never eat actually.
yeah, mummies never eat. Yeah,
mummies never eat.
Polish off a few leftover fish fingers. Kid didn't deign to eat.
Exactly. So I'd love to, I mean, how can people carve more time to go into this like reflection? Is there any, would you have any advice for that, or not feel selfish about doing it?
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're so right there, because I think there's two different things. There's the time to do it, but there's also the guilt in doing it. So I guess I have different answers. I think in terms of the time to do it, I think we have this idea that we need to like clear a half a day to sit down and get the notepads out and get the sticky notes and like write on the walls and get everything and have this big planning session, and then it will be done. But actually, often the clearest and simplest and therefore best ideas come to us in those moments when we're just really connected with what we're doing, which has a real benefit for us as parents as well. So I came about what I've landed on doing in those moments when I was playing with my 18-month-old at the time, and I was very grounded in that moment. And it's remarkable what that does to your brain, because two different sides of our brains, two parts of our brains. One's very logic, action oriented, task focused, to-do list, rationale. The other one's very creative, blue sky thinking, and we can only tap into that when we're relaxed, when we're calm, when we're present. So actually it's kind of twofold, because if you're tapping into time with your children, it's almost like you have permission to tap into and be really present in those moments, because you are doing yourself a service by allowing your brain in the background to just figure it out. And our brains are remarkable, and if we allow ourselves that time, we can do it. So it can be done kind of, I guess what I'm saying is, in tandem with a busy life. And a lot of people think, I'm too busy so I can't think about this. Well, actually that's great, because sometimes you don't want to sit and think about it, because you'll just go around in circles and talk yourself out of it. What you want is to dream about it, and that happens when we are fully present in the moment, or when you have those 5-minute showers. And
just gonna say the shower.
the shower. yeah but it's true. I know that's an absolute cliche, but it's true, because in the shower you're switching off and being more present, and even just thinking about what the water feels like running down your shoulders or whatever, is just going to help that dreaming happen. And that's when you get those moments where you go, oh my god, I've got it, I figured it out, you know, jumping out the shower.
You know, there's actually there's a post-it note for showers now.
Oh, is there?
Yes. Right. So this is a good time to plug it. We don't have an affiliate link though.
You need to get one.
I need to get one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the first answer. Maybe I answered both of those actually, but the second one was the guilt. And that comes down to we think we have to take ourselves away to do that work. And of course, everybody does need to ask for that time. My life improved immeasurably when I just started asking for time and making that a non-negotiable, and saying to my partner, my cup is empty, and in order to show up for you guys and for myself, I have to go and take 2 hours out of the house now, away from everyone, or I need to go and do whatever it was. When I started doing that, actually my cup could fill up again, and then I could take care of everybody, but also get back to that dream state and get back to that allowing my brain to do its work and be at its best to do that. So I guess that's the flip side of it. You know, you can't do it, you can't create this sort of thing in a busy life if you're not caring for yourself and you're not allowing yourself to do that dream. So it's almost like you're off the hook, actually, because it means you can take a break, and you don't have to sit down and have like massive planning sessions, and unless you want to, unless that puts you in flow. You know, some people they love that, but it's not necessary.
Yeah, because I think you can sit down with a notebook and then just feel the real pressure to, like, I've got an hour to get this sorted out, rather than, you know, thinking, and like you say, taking the time in the shower and just letting it come to you and kind of come a bit more naturally.
And trusting that intuition. That's really hard to do, especially if you come from a corporate background, because that is very task focused, logic focused, go. What's the rationale? Where's the spreadsheet? All that stuff, right? Which is good as well. That's great as well to get you moving forwards when you've got the plan. But to come up with the plan, that's not the part of our brains that we want to use. And so it feels different and unusual. It feels because we're not used to doing that. We're used to sitting in planning sessions. We're used to getting the team together and doing it all together and putting it in a spreadsheet and project plan, you know. But to come up with the idea, the step before that is actually that tapping into your intuition, which knows what your strengths really are and what you really want. And it does come down to those questions, you know, what do you really want as a person, not what does everyone else want of you, which again is very logic focused. What do you actually really want? And we can only really access that when we're a bit more chilled. I
like that. Thanks, Sanya. I'd love to know, I think I always think, do you ever think, because you can do so many things, how do you like decide on that one thing to do then? Because I always think that's the kind of the risk of being so talented, isn't it? Like right now, I know it sounds crazy, but I feel like I could run a market store and be very successful.
Oh, you definitely could.
And sometimes I do think maybe I could be I just, in my head, sometimes I do think, am I on the right path? You know, could I do other things? Because it's kind of the pit of being maybe potentially quite multi-hyphenated. It's like, so for you then, how do you think you've made peace with this being the path that is okay for you? Or how can people find that kind of reassurance of just doing the one thing and not kind of feel like I have so many options I can't choose as well?
Yeah.
And before you answer, Tanya, I really identify with what Tiffany's saying there. As someone with ADHD, I am constantly like, I could be doing X, Y, Z, and I've got all of these ideas, and I'm going to organize this, I'm going to do this. And I'll also decide we want to go on holiday as a big group of friends, so I'll organize that as well. You know, how do you pick the right path? And how are you comfortable with, even if it's not necessarily the path, it's the path you've chosen?
Yes, exactly. I think there's an element there for me. It's that really big question, which for me is, what will it give you?
Okay.
What will it give you? What's important about that thing? So we get the label. We have, you know, we find the label market seller. Well, what does being a market seller give you or mean to you? So it might be that you get to use certain skills. You might think that it's going to be exciting. Maybe every day would bring variety, and just getting clear on actually what's the elements of that you're attracted to. So what does that look like? What does the day in the life of look like? And what do you like about that? Is it that you would find it super easy to get the customers, that you'd enjoy the bartering? Like, is it that part of it? Or is it that you'd get to wear all the clothes and like be the fashion model for the market or something. Which
Don't
is
tell her that.
No, it's more the bartering. I once had a market store. There's a market store I had. We've got this market down where we live, and you can actually take all your bits. And I had all these like quite nice things with tags on them that I've never worn. So I took it to the market. And I remember like bartering with this woman for an extra 50p. I went there with her because she was being cheap. And I said, no, 1950, because she was like 19. I said, no, 50p on top. So I will go there.
Right. So it's that particular part of that you find, and then it's, what does that give you? So like that makes you, maybe you find that exciting, maybe you find that you love the challenge. So then we've removed the label of the job itself, and we're actually diving into what's attracting you to it. Like what does it really give you? What's that life you envisage that you will have if you're doing that job? Because when we find those things, then we can look at it and go, okay, so where do you find these particular things, like the skill of like negotiating or the skill of communication? Where else can I use those things on a daily basis? And then coming back to your question, Alex, about how can you make peace with where you're at? I think it's then looking at where you already are with those skills that you've identified and slotting them in and saying, well, so for instance, for me, I've learned recently that I really enjoy writing, and so I ramp that up. I do a lot of writing content. So because I run my own business, it could be video content, it could be anything else, but I ramp up the writing because I enjoy it. So I get that output, which means that I'm not going to go over here and try and be a non-fiction writer or start writing a novel. Because actually, do I actually want to write a book? I don't think I want to write a book. I think I enjoy writing, and that's something that I can already input into my world. And then when you can kind of find that already in your world, or find opportunities to do that in your world, then you start to see it a bit differently, because then actually you can make peace with the path that you're on, and find those moments where it feels good because you get to tap into those bits that you enjoy. Yeah.
I really love that. I've literally been scribbling notes with a pen while you talked. Yeah, really like that. And I think we also talked a little bit, I think this is probably like the last little bit for me, about how you use your time to focus completely on the things that you want to do, and how you block out the noise of the other things that you don't.
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. I actually posted about this recently. I wrote about it recently.
Nice.
Because I do really struggle with, and I think this is probably true for all of us, like when you finally sit down, I dropped the kids at school, like it's been a chaotic morning, like everybody's fed, out the door, at school, and back home. And it's the first time in the day that I've actually been able to sort of like switch on myself and my brain and be like, right, okay, what on earth am I doing today? And it's so easy to sit down, and within minutes I'm like, oh God, I've got to put a wash on, or I haven't done that. Oh, what PE kit do the kids need tomorrow, and where's my daughter's football boots? And suddenly I'm like off over here on all the other things that I haven't yet done because I've been busy. And I just use this really, and there's probably a proper name for it, but I call it the parking lot. I just use this really simple thing in my notebook that every single day I've got a page next to me, which is the parking lot. And once I've decided what the two things are that I'm focusing on for the day, just focusing on those two things, and I'll get stuck in. The moment one of those thoughts comes up, but I need to be doing this, oh my God, I haven't sent that email, oh my God, all these, that little chatter, write it in the parking lot. And then I'll just say to myself, it's in the parking lot, and I'm going to look at that later. And then I'll get back to what I'm doing. And there'll be another one, write it in the parking lot. And then I allocate time during the day to do the parking lot. And it's almost like I feel calm because it's there. I'm not going to forget it now. Whereas if I don't write it down, it's like, but I might forget to do that thing, which means I have to do it now.
I like that.
I'm going to forget.
I'm adapting that right now.
Yeah, I really feel that. I do something usually just for meetings, actually. because of the ADHD, where I have what I call a thought catcher.
Oh,
But I like the term parking lot.
I like thought catcher.
So while I'm concentrating on the meeting, I will get ping, 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 ping going on all the time. So I try and have a bit of paper and a pen so I can write down, I don't know, dishwasher or like whatever I've got to do on this bit of paper so that I can focus on what's going on, which sounds like a really similar idea that I just need to incorporate into the rest of my life, not just meetings.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah, but and that's the thing, isn't it? Because it's almost like once it's down, you the stress leaves, because it's like that's down now, and then it's just knowing that you've got time in your day to come back to that parking lot as well, or the thought catcher. I love that. I think about a dream catcher when you say that. I'm like thinking about having something hanging and catching.
Something behind that, Tanya. There's something behind it. Actually, I like that a lot, and I think actually reminds me of something my sister taught me recently. That she schedules worrying time.
Oh wow!
Yes, she's been doing that. She said, so what she does is, she would assign, I don't know, 15 minutes a day, and she would just worry.
I love that.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Very organized warrior.
Yeah, she would just sit there and she will worry about everything. So and then during the day, when something pops into her head to worry about, she said, no, I'm going to worry about that later. And I like that. I think maybe it's this idea of just better compartmentalizing things. Because especially as mums, you are thinking of a lot. Uniform.
Yeah,
I really like that.
Having that safe space. So, and I really love that as well, because it's not, you're not pushing it down and going,
yes, I'm not worrying,
to just, because that's not good for anyone. That's just not good for your health, is it? To just kind of like push it down and be like, I'm just not going to think about that thing. So I love that, because it's like it gives you the outlet. You've got that time to address it, so you feel safe, because you know your brain's going to get the chance to go, oh my god, everything's gone wrong, and but it's not impacting your day and not interrupting what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve. Yeah, love it. Kudos to your sister.
Can I just say I've written down vaccinations on my thought catcher while we were talking there? I need to put Ted's you are 3 vaccinations.
Wow. Did you just get a text as well? Because I did.
Oh, I did get a text the other day, but I haven't done it. So now it's gone on the thought catcher.
There you go. So I'm starting my list today. But yeah, today's been this has been amazing, Tanya. I think I can't think of any questions for now, but today's been very useful. And thanks for just taking us into your mind.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun to chat with you. Thank you. Massively appreciate it. Yeah, that was great.
And don't go anywhere. Where can they find you? Where can people find you, Tanya?
Oh, you can find me on LinkedIn if you
want to be found.
If you want to be found,
Put it on my parking lot. Yeah, I do want to be found. You can find me on LinkedIn if you search Tanya Edgar Coach. It should come up with my profile. So that's Tanya Edgar Edgar. Tanya Edgar Coach, and that's where I am on LinkedIn. Come say hi. I love it when people come say hi. Send me a little message. Hi, Tanya. That would be great. That would be really nice. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. It's been super fun, and I am stealing the parking lot.
Yeah, same. Thank you so much, Tanya. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.